Last year saw unprecedented levels of flooding in Nigeria. With the country well into the rainy season, there are fears again that the government hasn't done enough to prevent the risk of flooding. With the constant change in the environment and activities of humans, which have contributed to climate change, there have been calls to industrialized nations to take definite positions on climate financing within the broad climate crisis intervention strategy. Take a listen. Since the inception of the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change UNFCCC Conference of Parties in 1992, there has been a lot of queries by experts and vulnerable countries about the annual ritual. One of the queries is that the UNFCCC policies as currently being implemented are not yet institutionalized in the countries to parties, expected to rekindle the debate on climate change and financing for the consequences in the public interest that could benefit ideas based on the divergent perspectives of enthusiasts and critics of the program. The UNFCCC needs to harmonize the diverse requirements of parties to transform climate financing into a sustainable project directed to resilience, adaptation, and sustainability. Additionally, UNFCCC needs to direct climate financing to the assistance and strengthening of vulnerable entities across the world. That is the point that's often lost on many industrialized nations. The category of countries to benefit from climate financing is quite different from the category of those who should be target of other socioeconomic interventions, and as climate financing should be framed for the poor and vulnerable countries. For instance, impoverished countries ravaged by flooding will be daily confronted with hunger. They will not be the typical nations for mitigation, as the impoverished nations need immediate intervention. That's why the right policy debate will bring about clarity on the idea of climate financing. The industrialized nations must take definite positions on climate financing and within a broad climate crisis intervention strategy, because it costs a lot to execute climate financing programs in a widespread manner. This is because when countries can adapt to climate crisis, climate financing will work better as the miserable will become resilient. In this regard, it's considered that loss and damage are late in coming given the centrality of carbon emissions and climate change crisis alleviation of the UNFCCC. There was a lot of hesitation on the part of the industrialized nations before this form of climate financing was agreed. Besides, the trajectory of implementation is also reflective of the numerous contradictions in the deadline and pathology of the UNFCCC and climate financing. Now, the necessary debate on climate financing must reckon with previous flaws in the implementation, as some pertinent questions cannot be ignored. They include institutional structures, integrity, transparency, and accountability in the course of implementation. The implementation of loss and damage financing should therefore help in removing these flaws for the purpose of effective policy implementation. When implemented honestly and competently, loss and damage could significantly help the cause of climate financing.
Well, joining us now is Vice Marshal Akugbe Iyamu, who's the president of the Association of Environmental Protection and Climate Change Experts. Good to see you, AVM Iyamu.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you very much.
Well, it's quite an interesting one, an exciting one, seeing that we still have humans who care for our environment, and perhaps paint us a picture of how dire the situation is.
Yeah. Well, according to Mahatma Gandhi, he said, if you forget the environment, you forget yourself. Yeah. You see, the environment is where we live, and it's going to be so for a very long time. Now, the undiscussed truth is this. The earth has become warmer by 1.1 degrees compared to other centuries in the world. What we're not doing is that we need finances to be able to take away 7.6% of carbon emission every year for the next decade. You understand? And what is the UN looking at? The UNFCCC. They want to see what you are doing to bring down this carbon emission. Let me shock you. There's the new move now is that to get electric vehicle working, they're going to be 6 times more materials taken away. And to get renewable energy working, there's going to be 9 times more materials taken away from Africa. Guess what? Nigeria is now in the top 6 countries that's going to benefit from this. And a whopping sum of 35 trillion US dollars is going to be deployed. What is missing? Knowledge, skill, and competence.
And I'm sorry to cut you here because I'm trying to listen and gauge some of the concerns in an attempt for us to cut down on carbon emission, moving to electric vehicles. You're also going to cause some kind of emission by also getting some of these materials, and sometimes from Africa.
Yes. You see, what you're going to do is that where is the minimum that you are doing? Now, what you are doing now, you have the highest, you have large volume of gas. That's 206 trillion cubic feet of gas. That's supposed to be the transition energy. Now, you're looking at the transition and 600 trillion cubic feet as the optimum. Now, if you're looking at that now, you see, renewable is the way to go. Renewable is the way to go. Because there's a lot of investment in it. And the EU is telling you that by 2050, they are going to green their aviation. And that is where the emerging economies, their money is coming from. They are moving away completely from that area. Now, what are they doing now? They are shoring up their energy from 3,000 gigawatts to 10,000 gigawatts. And there's a lot of money in it. And they have also released another fund, 1.6 billion for emerging countries. We are not assessing all these things. Why? Knowledge, skill, and competence.
Okay, knowledge, skill, competence.
Yes, transparency, accountability, and honesty.
Give us more knowledge. United Nations Convention had, the Conference of the Parties had a convention on climate change, in particular in 1992.
Yes.
Talk to us about the framework that came from that convention and its relevance today in 2023. Yes,
you see, the UNFCCC, that is the policy arm of the climate change. Then the IPCC, that is the research arm. But the whole, now, like I told you before, the world is warmer by 1.1 degrees. And if we don't do anything substantially and move in the right direction, we're going to hit 1.5 before the end of the decade. And that becomes unbearable. If you cross that, it becomes unbearable. So what are they now doing? Everything, you see, if you go to Sharm el-Sheikh in Egypt, you can see the whole of effort that they are making to bring down the greenhouse gases. So the carbon dioxide and everything you are doing is working towards bringing it down. But for Nigeria, it's okay. We are going to be able to do 40% unaided. The remaining part of it, we need assistance. But the advanced countries, they noticed all this a long time ago and they started working towards it. The loss and damage you were talking about, it is not a Father Christmas. They need to see your framework. Let me tell you, Italy came to get hydrocarbon here. They went to Somalia. They left you. So we need to build our capacity. We need to build. It is anybody you are putting in the climate environment has to have a large mind for climate change. It is not, I bring my friend, I bring my brother, I bring everyone. No, they will not look at your direction in that way at all.
And what will make us cause a look in our direction? Because it was just last November you were all in Sharm el-Sheikh, where you had this conversation.
Yes.
So what would make the world look towards Africa, more specifically in Nigeria?
Yeah. You see, we have to use, we have to atomize a whole lot of things. We have 774 local government areas. What is the visibility in this area? The havoc is not committed in Abuja. It's not committed in Lagos. It's committed in the local government. So the commission has to engage them. 1. 2, you have to source anywhere in the world for climate experts. Later, see, climate change is no more advocacy. It is not diplomacy.
Okay, now talking about
economic diplomacy, because the interaction between the earth is now affecting the economy. Now, let me ask you, after the flooding of 2022, what has been done? It took you 6.68 billion US dollars. That's what it cost. That's what it's cost. We did a research. We did a research on it and look at the whole thing. The way going forward, you will need to spend 3% of your GDP for the next decade, because when they were constructing the roads, they didn't have climate change in mind. So you need to change the whole of this architecture. You need to change them because it is affecting your economy. Anything that will make you go and make a supplementary budget, that means very, very important. Okay. 819 billion is what you took to do this. It's supposed to have a contest, rules and every other thing. But your guess is as good as mine.
Okay, yeah. I reckon that when countries can adapt better to climate crisis, then climate financing will work better for them. Moving forward, speak to us about how Nigeria can better adapt to climate crisis.
You see, what is adaptation, what is mitigation? You see, these are the two key ways in the climate environment. If you are mitigating, that means you are reducing it. Adaptation, you are making it bearable. There are things that you have to do. First of all, the traditional way still remains tree planting. Tree planting. And we have to reduce carbon emission. Let me tell you one thing. There's what is called gasification. Now, people are looking at other areas to reduce the carbon emission in the atmosphere. What is gasification? Now, you are just going to take the heat from the palm kernel to be able to bake your bread. And that's a whole lot of money. You are not talking of climate change now as an evil anymore. You are talking of it as it affects the economy, because you have to bring out disclosures. Nigeria have to bring out disclosures of climate change, because anybody across the world now will not come and invest in a country where there's no disclosure of climate change. And when you have flooding, what is your stress test? What have you done since last year for them to invest? There's money to be engaged in the UN, but you have to have things on the ground. The financing, the loss and damage. They said they were going to have the first meeting in March. Find out. It is not as if the money is in the bank, you just write a check. No, it's not a sympathy. No matter how destructive it is, they will never sympathize with you. They have a structure that they can relate with, that you must bring.
And you say we need more experts. Because
you need more experts. People with a large mind for climate change that have what you are doing about the environment and the climate change.
I really will hope that we can actually get more and speak more on this. I'd like to thank you for your time, AVM Akugbe Iyamu.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.